I will share my screen. Can you guys let me know when you can see that?
It's clear. We got it.
Awesome. All right, let's do this thing. So, hi everybody. My name is Claire Davis. Just like Emily mentioned, I am excited to be here with you today. I work with the Transition to Organic Partnership Program in the Northwest region, and I am a certification specialist with them. So, I work one-on-one with producers a lot to assist them with the organic transition process. Today, I'll provide just kind of a brief introduction, very broad overview to organic certification, as well as the resources and services that TOPP can provide to farmers. Feel free to just throw questions in the chat as they come up, or you can speak up and interrupt me anytime. It's really casual, so feel free. Quick introduction. So, like I mentioned, I work for the Transition Organic Partnership Program. I work for TOPP within Oregon Tilth, which is an organic certifier based out of Corvallis, Oregon. I myself have some farming experience for about 4 years before I had this role. Just like you, John, I worked on a market garden. It was about 2 acres, and we grew diversified veggies and flowers. And we had 6 people full time. So I am really thinking about you out there with your one-person operation as of now. Hopefully, it's pretty relaxed in the winter. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to cover why folks are even interested in getting certified organic, what kind of prompts them to do so, what organic really means, and some key organic principles, who's who in the organic world, how you know if you are eligible to be certified or not, and then we'll review some steps to prepare for getting certified, as well as what getting certified looks like, along with the fees. And we will talk about some other resources as well to help with your transition to organic, and I'll talk more about TOPP at this time. And then at the end, assuming folks have more questions, feel free. We can just have an open Q&A and discussion. Okay, so why should anyone get certified in the first place? So, in order to access the organic market, you must be certified and have the USDA organic label on your products. There is a huge demand for organic products in the US. This chart shows sales data over time from 2007 to 2023, and you can see that the organic industry in the US went from a 20 billion industry to over $70 billion in 2024. There is a 5.2% rate of growth year over year in organic sales, which means that the organic market is far outpacing the rate of growth of the standard food market at 2 times the growth rate. But we are still, as a nation, importing significantly more organic goods than we're exporting, which means that there is some major domestic opportunity for organic market growth. This is partially what spurred the creation of the Transition to Organic Partnership Program to work to meet domestic organic demands with our own land and our own farmers. So, what is so important about certification and the organic label? What's the big deal? What doors does it open for producers? So, for one thing, as we know, organically grown products are more expensive. Organic producers can access markets and premiums that conventional growers can't. The organic label represents a universal and regulated standard, so it signifies the same thing across the country with enforcement policies in place for anyone who is not following the regulations or selling products fraudulently. This levels the playing field for all producers and feeds directly into point three, which is that there's a really strong consumer trust with organic certification. Consumers understand what the organic label and claim mean. They know it's well regulated, and there is trust in that. In addition to that, organic certification can be kind of a form of communication for a producer if they're not there to talk about their products to the consumer themselves. The label can do a lot of communication for you, kind of indicating how a product was grown or raised. It's critical to share that you cannot use the word organic in any of your marketing unless you are certified organic and have the USDA organic certificate. There is one exception to this rule, which is that if you sell less than $5,000 in organic sales annually, you can use the word organic in your marketing, but you cannot use the label unless you are fully certified. I do want to say that if you are not certified, you can certainly use words like natural, chemical-free, sustainable, just not organic. And I also want to say here that organic certification might not be the right fit for everybody. If a producer already has a really good access to a market and tons of consumer trust, and they have no need for additional markets or premiums, organic certification might not be the right choice for them, and that's totally fine. I do like to share, though, that if there is an opportunity for you to access new markets or new premiums, the more folks in operations who become certified organic, the more attention, research, and funding is allocated to organic practices and programs, which helps us all. All right, let's jump into the key principles of organic. What does it mean to farm organically? So, the National Organic Program, which oversees all organic regulations and certification in the country, defines organic production as a system that is managed in accordance with the regulations to respond to site-specific conditions by integrating cultural, biological, and mechanical practices that, one, foster the cycling of resources, two, promote ecological balance, and three, conserve biodiversity. So often I think organic is reduced or described as simply a system of substitutions or limitations, but in actuality, it's much more than that. It's very focused on what practices can do for your whole agricultural system and its surrounding environment. It's not just production with substitutions, and it's not just eliminating synthetic materials. It's an ecological approach to farming that maintains or improves what's already there. So this leads directly into kind of the four key organic principles. And if you remember nothing else, remember those words: maintain or improve. So for soil fertility and crop nutrient management, this is one of the most important parts of organic production is maintaining healthy soil and minimizing erosion. So there's multiple ways to meet this requirement. A lot of folks use conservation tillage to minimize soil cultivation. They implement compost or composted animal manure to increase nutrients, or they utilize cover crops and crop rotation. For seeds, seedlings, and planting stock, seeds and planting stock must be certified organic unless they are not commercially available in the quantity, quality, or form that you need, in which case producers can use untreated and non-GMO seeds and planting stock. Annual seedlings, the starts you might buy from a nursery and replant each year, those must always be 100% certified organic. Pest, weed, and disease management is another really important area for organic production. Per the organic regulations, farmers must prioritize preventative methods first and foremost. So this can look like increasing habitat for beneficials, birds, bats, insects, implementing crop rotation to prevent diseases from staying in the soil, intercropping or cover cropping to lessen weed pressure. These are just some examples that help prevent pests, weeds, and disease. If preventative practices are not sufficient, then the use of mechanical or physical methods can be used, and this could be weeding, mowing, livestock grazing, etc. And lastly, if you've tried other stuff and it hasn't worked, you are allowed to use natural materials and inputs that have been approved for use in organic production. So pest, weed, and disease management can require a pretty significant shift in perspective if you are going organic from conventional. It needs to be looked at with a systems-based approach where if the whole operation is working together as a healthy system, you're less likely to see problems with pests and diseases in the first place. Lastly, we have biodiversity and conservation. So for organic production, farmers do need to implement practices that maintain or improve the natural resources and the biodiversity of the operation, including soil and water quality. So this includes taking care of your soil, like I mentioned earlier, minimizing erosion, monitoring water quality, and using efficient irrigation practices, and caring for any natural areas on your property, maybe like meadows, tree lines, or other riparian areas. So this can seem like a lot of organic principles, but luckily there's a pretty decent amount of overlap between these. For example, reducing tillage on your farm can contribute to both the soil fertility and nutrient management requirement, as well as the biodiversity and conservation requirement. There are a few different players in the big fun world of organic certification, so let's go through their roles together so that you can understand how the overall system works and how each entity interacts. So at the tippy top, we have the USDA National Organic Program. This is the regulatory program that oversees all organic agriculture and enforces the organic regulations alongside accredited certifiers. So I want to note here that the National Organic Program, the NOP, is not the one reviewing your application or administering your organic certificate. They just establish and enforce the organic regulations. What the NOP does is accredit certifiers, like Oregon Tilth, for example, to certify operations as organic. And so while certifiers come and audit and inspect farms, the NOP audits and inspects certifiers to make sure that they're enforcing the regulations appropriately. Moving on, certifiers are the entities that farmers and ranchers actually work with and communicate with annually to get their organic certificate from. The certifier sends the inspector to your operation for your annual inspection. The inspector does not make a decision on your certification. They are just the impartial eyes and ears of the certifier, and they submit an inspection report back to the certifier. So finally, most importantly, are our certified organic operations. This includes farmers and ranchers, which are often grouped together and referred to as producers, as well as processors and handlers. There are 4 scopes that you can be certified under. There are crops, there's wild crops, which would be like if you have a lot of forest land and you want to go harvest chanterelles in the woods. There's livestock and there's handling. So an operation can be certified for just one of these scopes or multiple if it applies. For example, if you grow berries and you make jarred jam, you would be certified for both crops and handling. If you grow veggies and also raise chickens for eggs, you would be certified for both crops and livestock if you wanted those eggs to be certified organic. And excuse me, I have a bit of a cold, so if I'm a little bit raspy, please forgive that. Okay, so how do you know if you are eligible for organic certification? There are 2 major buckets that producers can fall into. The first, if a farmer has recently used a synthetic substance that is prohibited under the regulations, then there is a 3-year transition process. And that 3 years starts from the last application of a prohibited substance to the land, and the first certified organic crop can be harvested exactly 3 years after that date. For those 36 months leading up to certification, transitioning producers must only use materials that are approved for organic production. This includes any inputs, fertilizers, pest and disease controls, livestock treatments, cleaning agents, any other materials used on the farm. On the other hand, bucket number 2, if you already practice organic and you're just not certified, meaning you do not apply any prohibited substances to your operation and nothing prohibited has been applied in the last 3 years, then you may be eligible to receive organic certification right away and you won't need to go through any kind of transition process. Okay, while transitioning to organic and once certified, producers must only use materials and inputs that are allowed under the organic regulations. So it is vital to make sure that any material or input you use is allowed for organic production. Otherwise, you could accidentally reset your 3-year transition clock. And this sounds really scary, but it's actually quite rare that a producer makes a large mistake and widely applies a prohibited substance to their entire farm. More often than not, if you were to accidentally apply something prohibited, you would just take the portion of your operation that had that material applied out of organic production for 3 years. But, and here is where seeds are really important. If you were to accidentally plant seeds that were treated or coated with a prohibited substance, that does count as a widespread application of a prohibited substance, and the entire piece of land where those seeds were planted would need to be removed from certification for 3 years. So this is why confirming that the seeds you use are organic or untreated and non-GMO is really important. Okay, all that being said, how do you find out what materials are allowed for organic certification? So the NOP has the national list, as it's called, of allowed and prohibited substances, and this is located in the Code of Federal Regulations, which can be found online. And this just kind of lists generic substances that can and cannot be applied under organic cert. OMRI, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, stands for the Organic Materials Review Institute, and they are a third-party independent reviewer of materials for organic. They have a really incredible searchable list on their website. It's my favorite tool. There's a lot of details about when you can use a product and when you can't. Some certifiers, like the Washington State Department of Agriculture's organic program, publish approved material lists, and these can also be really handy to reference. And note that there are tons and tons and tons of materials out there that you could apply to your property and none of these lists are completely comprehensive. So you always want to check with your certifier before applying something that you might be unsure of. In organic production, it's always better to ask for permission rather than apologize later. All right, the organic regulations, these are the backbone of certification. These are the same regulations that are followed across the country. If someone has the organic seal, they were following these regulations. It levels the playing field for everybody, including the consumers who can be as informed as they want to be. These standards are found in the Code of Federal Regulations in Title VII, which is agriculture, Part 205, which houses the National Organic Program. If you are considering getting certified organic, I really recommend just taking a look at these regulations. Before I read through them, I really thought they'd be an overwhelming amount of legal language, and they're actually not that bad. They're easy to read through, they're pretty brief, and I really recommend checking them out. If you do read the regulations and you have questions, it is truly my job to support you in that. So you can reach out to me via email or phone, and we can talk about the regulations and how they can apply to your operation. All right, let's take a look at how to prepare to apply for certification. So first, you want to start by reviewing the regulations, make sure they seem feasible. You want to confirm your eligibility and your target date. So what day do you want to be certified by? Confirm that your transition is over by that point if you had to do one. And then this is important. You want to start your application process at least 4 to 6 months before your target date for certification. You also want to develop a record-keeping system if you don't already have one. You really want it to be established ahead of time so it doesn't feel like a big burden. Once you're certified, you want to make it routine for you and your team. And I'll talk more about record-keeping in just a bit. And then finally, you want to research certifiers in your region. You want to call them, you want to talk with them. Certifiers love talking to clients. All certifiers have different processes, timelines, and fee schedules. So you just want to do your due diligence and figure out which one is kind of the best fit for you. Okay, so now that you're ready to apply, what does the actual process of certification look like? So you select the certifier that fits your needs the best. You submit your OSP, which is your organic system plan. This is essentially your entire application to the certifier, and it's an agreement between you and your certifier for how you, the producer, will run your operation in accordance with the regulations. You pay your fees, and then once your forms are submitted and your fees are paid, the certifier will conduct an initial review of your OSP and kind of assess your compliance. Every operation applying for certification is required to have an in-person inspection after passing that initial review. The inspector will want to see every field you're certifying and any processing or storage areas. They'll ask about seeds you use and will want to see documentation and your records, and they'll do a couple of audit exercises to put your record-keeping system to the test. We'll talk more about those too. After the inspection, the certifier will review the OSP and the inspection report to evaluate compliance, and if everything is looking good, then they will issue your operation an organic certificate, and you can use the organic seal on your labeling. And then every year after that, that you wish to remain certified organic, you will need to go through an annual inspection. You'll need to pay your certification and your certification and inspection fees annually. And you will need to make sure that you keep your organic system plan up to date and notify your certifier of any changes to it. So changes can look like adding crops, adding new materials that you're using, or adding or removing acreage. Okay, fees, of course, big question that come up about organic certification. So all certifiers can determine their own fee schedules, but they are required to have them publicly available. So if you go onto a certifier's website, you should be able to find their fee schedule pretty easily. Fees do vary between certifiers. Some certifiers base their fees on just income of your operation. Others charge a flat fee. Others kind of have like a sliding scale, and others charge a new applicant fee occasionally. It's really dependent on each individual certifier, so you just want to do your research ahead of time. In general, there will be two kind of separate fees, one for the administrative certification process, like reviewing your application and administering your certificate, and one for the in-person inspection. Inspections are typically, not always, but typically charged hourly, so it's good to be prepared ahead of time so your inspection doesn't take too long. Inspection costs are also based on how far an inspector needs to travel to get to you, and that's why it's important to pick a certifier who already operates in your region. So I can't speak for other certifiers or give exact estimates for what certification and inspection costs may be for them, but for Oregon Tilth, there is a one-time new applicant fee of $300 in your first year and a base crop certification fee of $325. The inspection fee, again, kind of varies, would be added on top of that. In the following years, if you continued with Oregon Tilth as your certifier, you would not have the new applicant fee, and your annual certification fee from then on would be based on your operations annual income, kind of a sliding scale. Okay, I'm keeping an eye on time. It looks like I'm kind of close to 20 minutes, so I'm just gonna not race through the rest of these slides, but maybe go a little more quickly. After you choose a certifier, you will develop what's called your organic system plan. Again, this is just an agreement between you and your certifier. It's essentially your entire application, and you'll just kind of tell your certifier all about your operation. What crops you grow, what livestock you produce, your fields and acreage, any materials you use, your conservation and biodiversity plans, as well as your record keeping system. All certifiers' OSP forms are a little bit different. They essentially ask the same questions, but they might ask them in different orders or formats. So just know that if you fill out one certifier's OSP, you can't turn around and submit that OSP to a different certifier. You would have to refill out the paperwork. Okay, record keeping can feel pretty daunting for folks who are new to organic certification. So let's talk about why it's so important. It's really not just about jumping through hoops, I promise. So the significance and meaning that the organic seal carries, remember we discussed that level playing field, the set standards. At the heart of all of that is consumer trust. If consumers were to lose confidence in the organic seal, the industry would not fare very well. So how does the National Organic Program maintain consumer trust at such a large scale? How do we ensure that there isn't rampant fraud? Record keeping is part of the answer. Certifiers only have actual eyes on operations one day out of the year during the annual inspection. So, record keeping or the diligent tracking of operation details gives certifiers insight into how your operation is run the rest of the time. There are two main goals to the traceability and resulting transparency that record keeping brings. One, you want to ensure no contamination of organic goods occurred. And two, you want to ensure that no fraudulent activity, whether intentional or accidental, is occurring. The audit trail exercises are performed at each inspection and they look more closely at your record keeping system. There's two main ones, the traceback and the mass balance. The traceback is when an inspector will choose a random product that you sell, let's say Black Magic Dino Kale, and you'll trace it together from sale or whenever it left your operation back to the originally sourced seed or transplant or whenever it entered your operation. And the goal of the traceback is to ensure that organic regulations were met throughout that product's life cycle on your operation. The mass balance, its goal is to ensure there's no fraud, whether intentional or accidental. And so the term mass balance is really just a fancy way of saying, do the outputs match the inputs? So for Black Magic Dino Kale, let's say your records indicated you sold 1,000 bunches this past season, but you only planted 10 Dino Kale plants. It's a really exaggerated example, but that would mean 100 bunches of Dino Kale per plant over the season, which just isn't very feasible. And so that would prompt the inspector and certifier to ask, where did all that extra organic Dino Kale come from? So the mass balance is done to ensure there's no fraud or people passing off non-organic goods as organic. Okay, now we're in the home stretch. So this can feel like a lot of information, and it makes sense that producers might feel overwhelmed when considering getting certified. And so how do we support producers who are curious about organic certification but don't know where to start? The Transition to Organic Partnership Program, or TOPP as it's called, is a national USDA initiative that supports crop and livestock producers through the certification process. So like I said, it's a national program, but it is split into 6 regions. Oregon Tilth is the lead organization in the Northwest region, and we work with many different partners across the region, NABC included, to support growers who are interested in getting certified. All services offered through TOPP to support producers are completely free and completely certifier neutral. So if you are looking for certification assistance and you plan to get certified with the Washington State Department of Ag's organic program, that's great. Even though I work for Oregon Tilth, am still more than happy and willing to help you with your application and that process. Completely certifier neutral. One of the primary services that TOPP provides is a very cool mentorship program. Producers who are looking to become certified are paired with experienced already certified organic producers in their area who have ideally a similar operation type. The mentors, as they're called, are well compensated for their time, and the mentees participate completely for free. Mentors are available across our region, and we are constantly accepting new applications from both mentors and mentees. So if you're interested, you can find the application to join our program at our site, organictransition.org, or you are more than welcome to reach out to me. I'll put my information on the screen in just a bit, and I will connect you with the right folks to get you the info you need. Okay, in addition to mentorship, TOPP also offers direct technical assistance to growers looking to get certified. So this primarily comes from our certification specialists at Oregon Tilth, including me. Again, we're happy to work with any growers, no matter what certification agency you're going to work with. And certification specialists can help with understanding regulations, filling out organic system plans, preparing for your inspection, developing your record keeping system, really whatever it is that you have questions about or need help with, we can assist you. And technical assistance is offered virtually over the phone, email, or a video meeting. Okay, I will skate past this slide because I know I'm over time a bit, but there are some really good resources out there if you are just starting out, and I'd be more than happy to point you to them. And finally, I'll put my information up here on the screen. If you're interested in joining the program, either just for certification assistance or for mentorship, feel free to scan this QR code or again, check us out at organictransition.org. And you can email me and my team anytime at topp@tilth.org. Awesome. Okay. We're a few minutes over. I hope that's okay with everyone, but now we can go ahead and do a Q&A.
Thank you, Claire. That was great. Well, does if unless anyone else has a question before me, if so, please chime in. I will get it started. I have a question for you. I have a small pastured poultry operation, and right now we don't spray or pasture or anything like that. But we do feed a non-organic feed. So I have kind of a two-parter. Would I have to wait 3 years on any section where non-organic feed has been fed? Well, I'm guessing the answer is no. But and then the other part was, I think that I can have like two separate flocks, one where we would standard feed and then one where we could do organic feed just to have one kind of price point that's lower for our budget restricted customers. Is that right? Does that make sense what I'm proposing?
You can totally have what's called a split or a parallel operation. Both of those terms apply. A split operation would be maybe you are raising organic chickens but conventional pigs. A parallel operation would be what you're discussing, where you're
Okay.
growing the same livestock. Some of them are certified organic and some of them are not. And that's totally fine as long as you have a pretty thorough record keeping system that shows that those animals aren't getting
Sure.
mixed up and their feed isn't getting mixed up. You I really don't think you would have to wait 3 years for the land if you have fed non-organic feed on your land. Maxime, feel free to pitch in if you have a different idea on that, but that is my gut on that. Um, you would need to, in order to have organic certification for your animals, you would need to bring certified organic animals onto your operation. Um,
Oh, okay. So you'd have to
mhm.
like purchase from a certified organic hatchery.
Right, right.
Oh, okay. That's
Oh,
good to
sorry.
know.
To be clear, for avian species, sorry, that was unclear. For avian species, they can be managed organically from the second day of life. So
Oh, okay. So you get daily.
you can purchase chicks from a conventional spot, but they have to be fed 100% organic feed from the second day of life in order
Okay.
for them to be certified organic.
That tracks. I was going to say, I was like, I don't know about it. If there is a good idea though, an organic hatchery, I don't know if one even exists. I'm sure there is one out there, but I've never heard of one.
Right, right. I know organic really walks a beautiful line between trying to do the right thing and also making it practical for
Sure.
producers. If organic just fully required organic seeds and planting stock at all time, there's just not enough organic seed or planting stock or organic chicks in the world to
Yeah,
provide. And so there has to be kind of a line of moderation walked.
sure. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does
All right,
anybody else?
oh, this is Farmer Deb. Sorry, I was trying to find the hand raising motion on here, but I do have a lot of questions and I don't want to monopolize. So I'll just start with a few of them and just roll. You tell me if I need to give the floor to someone else. So the first one is because my farm has never been certified as of yet, I've never used the organic seal or tried to be fraudulent in any way. But my understanding was that the limit was $25,000 in revenue per year for being able to use the word organic in marketing. I've always said, we're not certified, but we follow all organic practices. I was very startled to hear the $5,000 revenue. Could you clarify that for me, please?
Yes, it's $5,000 in organic sales, not even revenue. So it really is for smaller producers. You do not want to be using the word organic in any of your marketing. You could potentially be reported to the NOP for that, and there would be consequences. So I do recommend switching your verbiage to sustainable, chemical-free, natural, those kinds of things, unless you did want to proceed with getting certified. And that's just to kind of protect the integrity and the meaning of what organic is.
No, I totally get that, and I've always wanted to be in compliance. But at least I saw in the this is from the WSDA where I got the $25,000 revenue per year because that's yeah I'll have to look back on that. So that's like I said, shocking news to me. This is why we get educated. I would really like to be organic across 100% of my farm, but I am unable to find a consistent supply of organic goat feed.
Mhm.
I do treat my chickens are 100%. We'll just use the term organic in quotes now that I know I can't use it.
It's okay.
My crop operation is 100% organic. And I'd love to have my goats be, but like I said, I just cannot find organic grains for them.
Mhm.
Is that something that maybe I could get a mentor for or figure out? Because it's really, really very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have goat producers who are certified organic in the region that I would be happy to connect you with. If
That
you
would be, yeah, that
Yeah,
would
please
be
feel free
that.
to shoot me an email. I'll put it in the chat one more time and I'll get you connected with our mentorship coordinator because sometimes it is just easier to talk to a farmer. They're just more in the know and you guys have large networks.
That would be great because I'm in Pacific County, so I'm, on the butt and spit of everything here. So it's very difficult sometimes. And I'm willing to travel and I, routinely go as far as Olympia and all the way down to Portland to get supplies when it was during the pandemic. I actually drove 500 miles to get my goat feed because we know how sensitive little goaties are with their rumen and they don't take well to change. So, yeah, I try to be a responsible shepherd as much as I can.
That's great.
I have other questions, but I'll let other people go and then and get my turn again here in a second. And if there aren't any, then I'll just keep going. What is the difference between like CCOF, USDA, and WSDA organic certifications? Which should we pursue? Is there any reciprocity among these programs? That's been one of my biggest confusions and has kept me every time I try to start this process. It just kind of I get in a dither and then a goat birth happens or something else happens and I
Totally.
just can't get back to it.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great question. So USDA is the overarching national program that houses the National Organic Program. So they are not a certifier. They are not the ones reviewing your application. You should not communicate directly with the USDA about getting certified. What the USDA National Organic Program does is accredit individual certifiers. These could be for-profit operations, nonprofit operations, state operations. And so WSDA is an example of Washington State Departments of Ag organic program. So they are an accredited certifier. You can call WSDA's organic program and say, I want to get certified, send me your applications, and you would pay them the fees. They would send the inspection inspector to your operation. Um, and you would go through the process with them. If you called WSDA and they didn't offer a service you're looking for example, WSDA right now is not accepting new applications for livestock operations. So you would maybe pivot to a different certifier like Oregon Tilth or CCOF. So you would reach out directly to those. You could call them businesses. Oregon Tilth is technically a nonprofit, but you would reach out to them and their staff would provide you the forms you need, provide you any information on the fees you need to pay, and kind of walk you through that application process. And then if you ever see, like if you ever buy Organic Valley heavy whipping cream, I put it in my coffee every morning. On the back of the carton, it says certified by Oregon Tilth. And so they're kind of like publicizing their partnership with Oregon Tilth. And other places you'll see certified by QAI or certified by CCOF. And so you pick the certifier that meets your needs the best. And that's why I recommend doing that prior research. Does
Okay,
that
gotcha.
help clarify that system?
It definitely does. So therefore, if we get certified through whichever of these accredited certifiers there are, we can then use the label seal of the USDA organic. Gotcha. That has been so confusing to me on
Totally.
all of that. And I've been trying to do this. Thank you so much. That is
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Yeah,
So it
it can
sounds
be
like
definitely
the
what you
OSP
want.
templates are then unique to each certifier.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah. They
And
all pretty much, they're all based on the same regulations.
mm,
And so they're all going
right.
to ask the same questions, but they're going to have different formats and orders. Some of them are
Just
one long
just
continuous
like
line.
health insurance firms, they're all just uniquely enough different that it basically they say that at 3% of the cost of our nation's health needs are spent on the diversity of forms because they have to, just how difficult it is to manage everything. Okay, that really helps clarify things for me. Now,
Totally.
in terms of certifiers, where do we find the list of a list of certifiers? Because I have found nothing against the WSDA because I have very good relationships with them,
Yeah.
but because of where they're based, I have much more in common with coastal Oregon providers and folks than I do with people on the other side of the Cascades. So I just find in general that I do more of my business with Oregon based, whatever I need to do. So again, where could I find the list of certifiers? Because I really need to get this process rolling finally for my farm.
Totally. And I would love to help you with this process.
That'd be
I did a
great.
briefer presentation than I normally do. I often have a slide about the Organic Integrity Database. It's an incredible tool. It's often referred to as the OID because we all love our acronyms.
Hmm.
I'm putting a link in the chat for you. The OID is an incredible tool because it has a certifier locator tool, which is what I linked. And so you can say, I'm in Oregon or I'm in Idaho or I'm in Washington. What are all of the certifiers that operate in my state? And it'll give you a list
Great.
of them and their contact information. On the flip side, you can also search for other certified organic operations, not just certifiers. And so that can be really helpful if you want to build your network or talk to other goat producers about where they get organic feed. You can reach out to them via their contact information on the OID as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Worth the price of admission, so to speak. So thank you for that. That
Totally.
sounds really good.
Yeah,
I noticed Celeste had her hand up earlier, so I wanted to make sure she had an opportunity to ask her question.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
hmm
Okay, good. My question, and you may have addressed this, I jumped on a few minutes late, so I apologize. We have a couple of family properties that I'm actively trying to transition as basically kind of graduated incubator space for farms who have been working on incubator farms like Viva that can then launch onto a larger parcel, but still be on a kind of a cooperative farm. And so, having said that, I've been not really clear on whether I can certify the land itself organic,
right.
or if it's producer based, or I know it's dependent by crop. And so that kind of has me in a weird space of like, I don't really know how to proceed. So if you could speak to
Totally.
that, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, so organic certification, put very simply, follows the business entity, the LLC, or whoever applies for certification. And so in your instance, if you had the entire farm operating under one business name, you could certify the farm and maybe just hire those farmers to help manage it. But if those farmers wanted to have their own legal entities or businesses selling products that they're growing, they would each need to individually be certified. And it's totally fine to certify on leased land. People do it all the time.
Okay, that's great because we have been over 3 years, not fallow, but under organic practices. So
Right.
that puts us in a position that they could come in and continue their certification if they're coming from a different place.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Another comment I have is I'm aware of at least one farm that uses the word organic in the title of their company name, but are not certified organic. So I'm kind of curious, based on what you said earlier, where that falls, if there's a gray area or not on that legally.
That's a pretty big no-no. To have it in your company name and not even just be using it in your marketing. That's definitely not what you want to be doing. There are avenues. If you're already working with a certifier, you can submit reports through your certifier. You can also submit through the NOP. I can see if I can pull up the link for submitting a report to the NOP.
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable thing, but it's also my own background in the food industry. I really want to honor the purpose of organic standards and truth in advertising.
Totally. Yeah.
So I just haven't really known what to do with that.
Yeah. Now, if there is a chance that they sell less than $5,000 in organic sales a year, is that a possibility that they're pretty
No,
small?
heck
No.
no.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat. And if you would like to follow up with the NOP on that, feel free to.
Oh, and this is Farmer Deb again. Just because it's recorded, I want to clarify, I am under, for organic sales, under the $5,000 rule barely. My farm sales exceed that for all entities, but my eggs are the only ones that I've really been marketing as organic, and that, like I said, I barely meet that threshold, but I am below the 5,000. So again, please don't narc me out, anybody. I'm trying to do the right thing. So, but I did want to clarify that for the record.
I don't mean
Deborah,
to.
you're in the clear.
I don't mean to scare you. There's a specific farm in mind.
No, Celeste, please,
Yeah.
I would be right there with you to help support you, because I think transparency and everything is very important, and so is honesty and accountability. So 100%, you go, girl.
Well, and I guess also I'm just kind of wondering, instead of being punitive, I'm wondering if the course of action, if I were to make the NOP aware of it, if the course of action is to like course correct with that entity, or would be something really severe, because I think they're doing good things, but I also think that that's not in alignment with transparency.
It is not in alignment with the transparency. It's a great question. I have not worked much on the reporting and compliance side of things with the NOP. Maxime, do you happen to have any insight on this?
No, not really. But I mean, what you started to say there is that my experience with organic certification is that compliance is a different, specific word rather than certification and things like that. So typically, if you contact your certifier or the NOP directly about the compliant question, it goes into a different track than the regular certification thing. So it's different people taking care of that.
Just a quick search. So take this with a grain of salt. The process includes an investigation and issuing of warnings and potentially significant fines for severe violations. So I'm not sure what would fall under that, but kind of just gives you an idea.
I wanted to chime in quickly. I want to talk about that sort of that approach to compliance issues, though, as well. I have some experience with WSEA's organic program, and I've found consistently, like, punitive is not something that really enters into it. In terms of that original contact, I would suggest that most of the most non-compliance is due to maybe just not understanding the regs or not being aware of them. And I found, in my experience, I found WSEA at least to be really, I think, sound and sensible is the phrase that gets batted around. I found them to be sound and sensible in their approach. kind of that continued sense that we're all in this thing together, and organic integrity is really important. I guess I really just wanted to comment and say what a wonderful uh, it's just great to see that mentorship program in place, and delighted, that Deborah was like immediately like, oh, I have these questions, and that mentorship could really help out. I just, my hat is off to this program and this initiative and others that are supporting that. And again, in my experience, I think that mentorship, there a lot of times people do have questions and they're afraid to ask because they're like, oh my, what if I'm not doing it right?
Right.
And so to have someone kind of buffering, between that, what is at the end of the day a regulatory agency, whether it's or operating on behalf of a regulatory agency, whether it's TILT or CCOF or WSDA. So anyway, for what it's worth, nice work.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Yeah, very proud to be working with the top program, and we're excited to be partnering with NABC for just kind of the helping of farmers that we do. I also want to say, just piggybacking off what you said, it is really, really nice to have a buffer between yourself and the regulatory agency for sure, especially if it's a farmer who's gone through the process and can just kind of level with you and be honest about it all. I also love to share with folks who are interested in certification that um, you don't really just like submit your application into a void and it comes back with like a big green yes or a big red no stamped on it. There are other people on the other side who are your certification officers, and a lot of them are farmers themselves or are really passionate about agriculture and really excited to talk to you about your operations. So it's not some ominous figure in all black with a big stamp. It's honestly a lot of the time a producer themselves or someone who has historically produced, and they're just really excited to be in the agricultural industry. So know that they have a lot of respect for you as farmers, and it really is a partnership of they can administer the seal if you're following these rules, and there just kind of has to be oversight involved in that kind of process. And then Deborah, I'm gonna go ahead and just put in a link. I'll put a description. Regulations surrounding $5,000 exemption, just so you kind of have that to reference.
And I would like, so we'll put together this recording and a lot of the resources mentioned here in like a toolkit for everyone. While I have everyone here, does anyone have any requests for any resources that Claire or I could curate for you and send out? We'll put everything, links to everything mentioned, everything in the chat. We'll kind of put in one place for you. In some of the other resources from Northwest Top. But if anyone else has any requests for specific resources, please let me know, and I'm happy to include them.
Emily, I definitely have a handful of resources in mind that I'll send to you to send off to everyone.
Perfect. Yeah.
Celeste, can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, it took me a second. Because of the model that I'm trying to establish on our farm, I want to be able to do some forms of value added, and I'm just curious how that interacts with organic certifications, because I don't know a lot about it.
Totally. Yeah, value-added products. To give an example that I gave earlier, if a farm grows berries and also produces jam, they would be certified for both crops as well as handling for the creation of that value-added product. So you mentioned it's kind of a co-op, so I don't know if the farmer entities would be supplying you the organic crops to produce an organic value-added product. If that would be the case and it's under your business name, you would get certified for handling. You do not need to be certified for handling if everything that's occurring on farm is using on farm ingredients. For example, if you grow lavender and all you're doing is letting it dry out and putting it into bags, that's not handling. If you're making lavender soap, that would be considered handling, and you'd be bringing ingredients from off farm.
I think
So
the
does that
jam
help clarify?
example is a good example. Also maybe just like IQF, like frozen stuff, I'm assuming, because you're just altering the state, not adding an ingredient, but maybe that would be like your lavender example.
I would think so. Maxime, feel free to jump in if you feel otherwise. But if you're not adding any other ingredients or doing any like really intense processing, it should be just fine to have crops or livestock as your only scope.
So what happens if you were going to add an ingredient? Say, for example, you were going to make um, ice cream, non-dairy ice cream or something, where you're growing some of the ingredients, but some of the ingredients are not possible to grow.
Right. So if you wanted that product to have the organic seal on it, and you're producing it, you would get certified for handling. That
Mhm.
product would need to be 95% organic ingredients or greater. Uh,
Okay.
and so you would need to source organic ingredients to make that make it such that 95% or more of the product is 100% certified organic. You can not have the organic seal on the product, but claim that it is made with organic ingredients. And I believe that the checkpoint for that is 70% of the ingredients need to be organic. Maxime, is that correct?
I think so.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you so much.
Totally.
And this is Farmer Deb again. I had to step away because one of my staff locked the keys in a farm vehicle and had to provide proof that I own the car. Sorry. My question is for scope of the farm. Since I, at this point, can't get the goats certified, but I'm hoping to, and I have my operations for my chickens and my organic fields are quite separate. I mean, I have for biosecurity, everything's quite separate. As long as I prove provenance of different storage areas and things like that, would there be any quote contamination possibilities with my goat operations with the other getting the rest of the farm or organic certified?
Let me start at the top. You can absolutely get your chickens and pasture certified and not certify your goats. Um, the inspector and certifier will want to know about every part of your farm that is being certified. That is to say, it's contributing to the production of your chickens or eggs or crops. And so if you're like, hey, the goats aren't certified, nothing in their barn is certified, none of the fields that they go into is certified, that's totally fine. You can keep them completely separate if you want to. Does that answer your question or no?
Yes, it does. I mean, I
Okay.
have, like I said, for biosecurity and for a lot of other reasons, I have complete separation of storage and proximity. So I think it would be very easy to show an inspector, it's that's very clear. I just wanted to make sure that having, quote, a tainted part of my farm, but it's not tainted, but a tainted part of my farm that it completely does not bleed over into the operations of the rest of it would cause any interference with getting the right. Because I just because it can't be perfect, I don't want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And that's what I'd want to do is get immediate certification for my eggs, and chickens, and for my produce, and then work with some mentor to figure out how I possibly can get. So I think it's also going to be very hard to get certified hay. I think that's
Mhm.
going to be next to impossible. And so I'd really like to know how people work on that because around here, because of the amount of rain that we have, the hay is not nutritious enough. I need to get hay from Eastern Washington or Eastern Oregon. I've never been able to find an organic hay certifier in my experience that I can get deliveries or I can get pickups from, and my
Right.
local suppliers don't. And then, like I said, I intermittently am able to get organic grains for my goats, but it's very intermittent.
Right. I do want to plug the OID one more time. If you use the advanced search function on that organic integrity database, you can search for products, specific products that folks are supplying as an organic operation. So if you wanted to try and find any operation in your region that sells organic hay, you can do so with that tool. And one thing I said earlier, I think I mentioned, like you can keep your pastures where the goats are completely separate. I want to be clear, you can certify your pastures as organic as long as they're not having anything prohibited put on them. And it's totally okay to have conventional manure from your goats on those pastures. That is totally fine, and they can remain organic with that.
Okay, good. That was going to be a follow-up thing that I was doing because we do use the goat manure for the produce areas. So that's
Yeah,
very
that's totally
reassuring.
fine. There
Okay,
is a
good, good.
manure rule that I don't know if you're aware of, where if you're applying uncomposted manure, just raw manure to crops, it's 120 days for any crops where the edible portions are in contact with the soil and therefore that manure. And it's 90 days before harvest for any crops, let's say tomatoes, where the tomatoes are like on the vine and off the ground. And that's just for kind of that like biohazard safety part of it.
Yeah, no, we usually have a year that we do just to make sure about that. So yeah,
Perfect.
but good to know.
Well, I'm so happy that there were so many questions and such engaged participants. So thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Claire. It's 12:59. So I think we will close out. I saw that there were a few resources people recommended or requested, and I will look into those and confer with Claire and see if we have anything handy or we can hunt anything down for you. I also think I would plug the mentorship program again for some of those because I think like is when it comes to expenses for organic certification, I think that's probably going to vary a lot depending upon your operation. So finding another organic farmer that has a similar operation in your region is probably going to give you a more robust idea of some of those questions. And we will have links to all of that in the follow-up. So um, please feel free to reach out if you have any more questions. And thank you so much for coming today. And thank you, Claire, again.
Yeah, of course.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. I really appreciate your presentation and everything you do. So thank you all.
Exactly. Good to see you all.
Everyone, it was very helpful. Appreciate it. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Deb. Stay dry.
Trying. It's been tough. Thank
I
you.
know.
All
Oh,
right.
that went well.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm someone I would way rather have like three people that really want to do it and are hot leads than
Right.
30 who are just going to go, and which happens a lot where there'll be like 30 people and no one will ask a question. So I
Yeah.
was actually really pleased, and someone from Pacific.
Yeah.
We can
Right.
like report on that. That's great to have
Mhm.
someone in Pacific who like is like gung ho about going organic. And she's pretty well known in Pacific. I don't know how big or how much she's
Okay.
producing, but I've definitely heard of her. I've heard of her before in her farm, so that's
Okay.
great.
Yeah. 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 We should keep contact with her and see.
Totally.
Yeah, if
We'll
she
all
help.
follow up with the resources with everyone, and I'll follow up with her privately too, just to say, hey, so appreciated having you here. You know, we're funded to
Yeah.
help people in your region, so let us know if you need help with anything.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay, great. Well,
Thank
thanks,
you,
Mexico.
Emily. Yeah.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right.
See you.
Bye.